In room B, we will have the presentation Analyzing Open Finance by Angélica Arana from Citibanamex. In order to tell us all about this, let me tell you that Arana is an expert in technology and innovation, and she has broad experience in the financial sector, open banking, and payment methods. In the 26 years that she was working in Banorte Financial Group, she has been in different areas of systems and entrepreneurial architecture and innovation. She was a coordinator of the FinTech Committee, member of the Women's Leader of the Americas Council. So let's give it up to Angélica Arana. Thank you so much, Vicky. Well, today I will share with you an analysis of what open banking is. And to give you some context for Mexico, in Mexico 3 years ago in March of 2018, there was a law that was regulating financial technological companies. And besides having an open banking chapter, it also included some regulations in terms of wallets and crowdfunding, but and sandbox. But also, what pertains to us is what pertains to APIs and open banking. And open banking is a trend that is seeing worldwide, and we've been seeing this in the UK, which is where it all started, where they were regulating the main banks for opening through APIs, which are programming interfaces that allow to interconnect systems with third-party systems with the bank's systems in order to provide services. So we had certain banks that were forced to it, and there were some third-party vendors that would connect with the banks in order to start consuming information. In Mexico specifically, open banking went beyond, and it's actually encompassing all the financial sector, which involves much more institutions. In the UK, it's 9, and in Mexico, it's over 2,000. So what are the drivers for which different countries are adopting this trend? Well, some of them may be merely regulatory. It also has to do with the competition, and it's something that the market itself is demanding. So in the case of Mexico, we're on the regulating side. What's pushing us is this law that was issued in 2018. But there are other countries where it's happening because of competition or because the market itself is forcing us to do this. And how are we doing? How are we ready worldwide? Well, we are ready on the regulating side. For instance, there are some that are at the early stage. They're incipient when it comes to the preparation for open banking because all of this needs preparation. But there are others that are a little bit more towards the upper right quadrant where we see a lot of countries ahead of us, the UK, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Australia. And there are others that are on the transformational side. In Mexico, we're down here. In Mexico, we were also pioneers when it comes to regulations. However, we have been lagged in terms of the implementation. But what is open banking? Open banking is actually this secure way in which we provide access to providers to our financial information as individuals who have a bank account, but in a safe way, in a way that we grant that access. But it also encompasses much more. It's information banks can provide about information about access points or additional information. And why is this done? Why do we want to open this financial information that has been stored or safeguarded in bank institutions? And the thing is that we're trying to look for a way to offer better products and services through adding accounts so that we can have a full view of our financial health and also providing different additional products that probably our banks are not offering us currently. So it's aimed at end users such as us who are individuals, and also to small companies, for instance, or small businesses. So this has to do with consumers or customers having the best possible experience. And open banking has been evolving because we are closed banks where all of the information that is collected is safeguarded in the safest um, um, vault that we have, and therefore we need to safeguard that. And then it went to open banking where there's certain information that is opening up or disclose, such as accounts, so that you can add some accounts, and also being able to pay in other countries, and the opening of APIs that deal with the consent of consumers. And then we went to open finance because it encompassed more financial institutions, such as insurance companies and many more other financial institutions that operating in every country. And the final point is open data, because bottom line, all the information and everything we generate as human beings, and since we interact with different entities, we generate data, and that data at some point can be shared with third parties to make very interesting reconfigurations in terms of how we receive our services, not only financial services. So Mexico opened up in open finance, the regulatory side, but currently we're still in open banking because we haven't really generated some regulatory dispositions for others that are different to banks to being able to open or disclose their data to third parties. So at least in Mexico, the regulation encompasses the entire financial sector. The regulatory provisions that have been issued just focus on banks for now. And I was also talking about the APIs, which are this interfaces, application programming interfaces. So the APIs are technological mechanisms that allow us to deliver, or is the way in which that third party will connect with us. So we have the banks, we have certain APIs in the middle, and then we have these third party apps, which could be some businesses or probably retailers, and they will start generating. And nowadays we have several apps that do information consumption of the bank, and they provide them with apps with this consolidated information to different clients. So these are interfaces that allow us to do this safe interconnection. And in Mexico and in many other countries, these types of data started as of open banking and regulation, and are divided into three. Open data, which is basically the information of the products and services offered by financial institutions that are delivered to third parties as aggregated data, and also information that has to do with transactional data, which is the most delicate because it pertains to us and we do not want to be delivered to anybody else without our consent. And that's what the important thing lies in. So this information will only be disclosed to third parties with our consent. So this is open banking, how we have the key for this information, and we open up the door for this third parties to only be able to see the information we want to share with them, and for the time that is required because we determined it. Nowadays, we are doing it because nowadays there's screen scrapping methodologies that are collecting this information in an unsafe way, and we're probably giving our bank credentials to third parties for them to extract this information, but they may be extracting more information that we are even aware of. So in Mexico, as I mentioned, we are still on the way to that openness. We are still looking at different solutions for different types of businesses, both for companies and for individuals. And also, when it comes to the content of the regulation in Mexico, for instance, They are thinking about including an API that allows a payment app which is not included in Mexico. However, this does not mean that this will not be included in the future and that the regulator in the case of Mexico, the Bank of Mexico, will have the authority or possibility to do it through our path for um, interbank payment, which is SPAY. So there are several regulations that have been issued, and those regulations focus on certain entities. And on this side that I was mentioning, there are always two sides, the one providing the data and the one requesting for the data. And as bank institutions, we have a series of regulations behind us that have kept us guarding this information in a very jealous way because we need to take care of money laundering. I mean, seeing that there's nothing like that or trafficking and things like that and seeing where the resources are going in order to pinpoint some situations that may put at risk the stability of the financial system and the safety of our transactions and operations. Therefore, when talking about open finance, we need to look at an entire ecosystem around it. And I told you that there are some systems behind it, which could be the banking systems. We have the interfaces, which are the mechanisms allowing us to make this connection between apps that may be provided by third parties and us. So behind us, there's an entire community of developers who are the programmers who belong to these institutions who are third parties and are consuming the technical specification of these APIs, achieving this connection. And also, we have clients or consumers, which will allow us to broaden this data base to reach all the population because nowadays we have few people who have bank accounts and also stimulate innovation because the financial sector needs to have innovative products. As consumers, we're more demanding every time and we're not pleased with the services that the traditional banking has been offering. And therefore, when third parties are included in this ecosystem, we see a bigger growth. Even as financial institutions, um, we are focusing on seeing the preference of our customers. So this is based on the experience because right now, um, the only way they have access is through the information that banks provide. And of course, we have APIs, but those are private and we are the only ones who can consume them. And then we have all the financial products. When we open, then this changes because you have consumers and consumers or customers may have information or services that are provided by other vendors that are not banks and also by banks. So at the end of the day, they have a bigger offer of products and services that it's richer with a better experience and that focuses a little bit more on how to improve their lives. So this promise that open banking offers is that we will have APIs that are public and that can be open to everyone. We will have certain APIs that will be protected for third party access and probably the regulators will not come in to play. They will be premium APIs that will be offered to small and medium sized companies or to big corporations for them to connect in a more effective way with us because they're also our customers and they have different financial needs than individuals. And also this internal APIs that will help us have better ways to connect with all of our systems behind. And the question is, okay, this all sounds very good, but are we ready? And the truth is that around this, we need to be operational ready. We need to have the technology and data in a way that there can actually be used and not just stored everywhere, but that we cannot access them. And on the top, we need to generate that business value, this customer experience, and we need to have a platform offering our APIs to third parties that is easy to access. And we need to provide a better experience to these new developers that are not our own collaborators, but are third parties collaborating with other companies. And we need to give them an easy experience for them to integrate their applications with us. So behind us, we have everything which is pushing us, which is the regulation and customers who are demanding better products and services, as well as an ecosystem that is pushing for this to happen. So all of this implies having capabilities that we need to develop in order to really generate this result. So we need to start opening up and saying that we need to become modular and integrate with the current demand. And we need to start thinking about changing the current paradigm so that we can really collaborate with third parties. Because bottom line, data is the new oil. And what this means is that, for instance, right now we are generating a lot of information that banks have from us. And not only banks, but all financial institutions. And what are the key roles that banks can play in this new concept of open banking? And the truth is that we can get to the mere side of open banking, also going to open finance, or definitely going into an economy that is API based. And we may use a legacy bank, or we are a bank that is opening up, and we're a bank that has a marketplace that is starting to offer all of this API platforms so that third parties connect, and we are creating richer services for our customers. And for instance, we also go to the side of offering banking as a service, which means that instead of customers coming to our own apps, we will be embedded in third-party platforms, all the way to getting to an API economy where we're talking about lifestyle banking, where we are providing not only financial services but also non-financial services, and we have an entire platform where we will see what was mentioned, that you may probably not use the bank, but you will use the bank's services. And this is true half a way, because the banks may be behind, but we can still offer other types of services that the platforms that we currently have, such as Uber, Rappi, and any others offering different services, may also be offering financial services. And behind, we have a bank endorsing them. But you don't have to go out and connect to 20 different banking apps, but you are doing what you want, but you're also consuming financial services. So that's one of the roles we may play. And we need to generate a bank with a series of capabilities to do so. But this does not happen overnight. This has to keep growing, and we need to see how to do it. In Mexico, we're in an interesting phase. As I mentioned, this is something that we have been noticing worldwide. And in different parts of the world can be seen. There are different products and services being offered. For instance, the way in which we save is increasing. The way in which we expand the payment method is growing. That are better services for small and medium-sized companies. And for instance, we are seeing some services we can offer customers, such as a personal finance manager, and we can help them analyze their income and expenses so that they can save money, so that they can have a better financial health. Because part of our mandate as a financial institution is, how can we make customers having a better financial health? How can we include more customers or more people who are currently not within the financial sector? How can we make them, or how can we integrate them easily to it, or to have access to financial services that help them achieve their life expectations and financial goals, and also create prosperity in Mexico? So as I mentioned, we go from having products that focus on products to having banks focusing on consumers, where consumers are really where they want, doing whatever they want without having to see how to include them in apps, in banking apps that we want. So this is the end of my presentation, and now we go into the Q&A session. Thank you.
Hola, muchas gracias.
Hello. Thank you so much. Well, now we are in our Q&A session. So let's go to the first one, which is, were there any delays in Mexico regarding the beginning of open banking because of the pandemic? Yes. Yes, I actually think that everybody was in a more tactical mode in order to address what was really necessary, which is how were we going to provide financial services to people who were at home? How would we make it easier for them to do their paperwork and transactions without leaving home? How can we help people to become digital? How to download their mobile app to their phone and start using it? So the work done last year from all financial institutions, even by the regulator, was how can we make more flexible the regulations so that we could have some remote opening of accounts and so forth. So clearly, we focused our efforts on what was necessary to do because of the pandemic, because first comes first, of course. And obviously, there were other things that needed to be delayed because they were not urgent. They were important, but not urgent. And obviously, that created some delays in the implementation. The second question is, how risky is is it for financial system users the beginning of open banking? And I think that everything in this world has a risk. And I think that nowadays, this is a risk that a lot of people are already running. And it's a matter of seeing how to minimize that risk. And what do I mean by this? Throughout several years, we have seen there are some apps that offer you seeing all the accounts you have in different places, but in a single platform. Some banks have already downloaded those apps because they're convenient. They allow them to see all of their accounts in a single place and not only add their accounts, but also classify their expenses and help them have a better view of their financial health and making decisions based on this. But what do they do in order to achieve this? In order to get this benefit, what they do is that you're delivering what banks always tell you not to do. Your user and password from your um, online banking. So you're giving it to that app that is providing you with that service. So you can accept or not the terms and conditions and see what it implies to give this. But with techniques of screen and scrapping, they're connected to your online banking so that they can download information, bring it to their information and classify it. But basically you're handing them the keys of your home. You're allowing them to have more information to the one that you were actually aware of. And really, with open banking, this will happen, but the difference is that you will you will still grant that control and permit through your own bank. You will not deliver the credentials to a third party. You will authenticate with your bank in order to allow that access to that information. What do you have to be aware of? Yes, you have to read the small fonts and see that once that third party has that information, what will they do? Will they keep it? Will they be able to delete it? Once you restrict access to them, you revoke the consent for them to keep consulting. But what happens with the history? Will they be sharing this information with fourth or fifth parties? That's something we must be aware of as human beings, regardless of how safe the system may be. As human beings, we must be aware that every every power has a big responsibility, and if we have the power of sharing our information with third parties, we need to be careful who that third party is. How will they treat our information? Where will they store it? How can we ask them to delete it if we don't want them to have that information anymore, and not to share it with anybody else? So I think that's the risk. The risk is not realizing who we give permission to. And that's as if you were handing anybody your home keys or your car keys. If we transfer that into our daily lives, you will not give access to your financial accounts to everyone, right? You wouldn't hand the keys of your home or your car to just anyone, right? So this means, who are you giving access to your data? That's one of the risks. And the other one is, as financial institutions, together with third parties, we should do a good job, and we should make sure that we're providing the necessary and right access and minimum access according to the privilege that we grant to people to have access to our information. And I think that we don't have time for a third question. So hopefully I answered the questions that you had. Otherwise, I'll be available in the LinkedIn that I shared with you. And I want to thank Foro Prosa for having me today. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Angelica. Without a doubt, this is a very important topic for our audience. How about you stay in the same room, because we're about to start our panel for data protection strategy. So stay tuned.